Some of you are familiar to Mind Matters, and some of you are familiar with Amaha as well. So I'm really pleased to announce that we've entered into an informal partnership with Amaha for the purpose of disseminating information and awareness around mental health. And this is the first of these sessions that we are talking about together, where we will look at different aspects of mental health. This month we are looking at women's mental health, given that it is March, and women and all things about women are top of mind for many people. Yeah. Um, just in terms of introductions, I'm Devika with the Mind Matters team, with the NHRD Mind Matters team. And it's my privilege to have with us Pratishta Trivedi from Amaha Health. Okay, so thank you for joining us today, Pratishta. She is a senior clinical psychologist with Amaha Health, and from a technical point of view, Pratishta is trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, and I'm told that she incorporates the humanistic, mindfulness-based, and positive psychology strategies in her sessions, which is great to hear that it's more than ticks in the boxes, Pratishta. Yeah. She also drives the research efforts at Amaha to ensure that the sustainability, and it's all evidence based for the products and services that Amaha provides. Pratishta's completed her master's in psychology, and she has an MPhil as well in clinical psychology. Before joining Amaha, she worked with the mental health and behavioral science department at Fortis as a consultant clinical psychologist. And I guess you then dealt with both OPD and inpatient clients, right? With a wide range of mental health concerns. So thank you for being with us this morning, Pratishta. Would I be right in assuming that you would be the equivalent of a GP where clinical psychology is concerned? Is it like a across um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, psychological
like
issues?
addressing all psychological concerns. And
Okay.
thank you for having me here, Devika. Very excited and looking forward to the conversation. Hoping people will participate, ask their questions. I hear you, maybe many people are in the weekend mode, and weekends are for relaxing and not really maybe, getting into things and all of that. But let's make the most of the
Yes.
time that we have here. Yeah.
Thank you. So in terms of setting context, let's first look at why are we looking at women in particular, right? Is there why are we? Is it that there is more at stake with men, women's mental health compared to men? Is there some data that says we should be focusing more on women?
Um, so, okay, I usually look at it in two ways, right? Of course, there is data on how mental health concerns impact women, but I'm sure all of us have also heard this, this thing. It's from very long back when people would talk about educating women. And you said that you educate a woman, you educate a family, right?
Yeah.
And which said that how women exist, how they interact has a much bigger impact on the family and has a much bigger impact on the society as well. So the focus on women's mental health partly also comes from there, that women are women occupy so many roles, even more so now with in the workforce, at home, multiple relationships, that their mental health is very, or at least should be very sacrosanct, should be taken care of. And it is not just a woman's own responsibility, but a larger familial, cultural, social responsibility that women's mental health is taken care of. In terms of data, of course, women are much more likely to have anxiety. Women are also vulnerable due to certain biological experiences, the menstrual cycle, menopause, the reproductive issues, and the hormones related with all of that make women vulnerable, much more vulnerable to mental health concerns, not only during these time periods, not only like PMS or postpartum or menopausal, but across the lifespan. The hormonal fluctuations make women much more likely to be vulnerable, to be at risk for mental health concerns overall as well.
Okay, so that's just pure biology then, isn't it?
I wish I could blame biology only for this, but there is a lot of sociology, culture coming in, right? The roles we occupy. I'm sure you would have come across this term because it's very frequently talked about in social media about emotional labor, right? The mental labor that women carry out, because though they have transitioned from the inside homes to the workspace, but running of the household, taking care of children or even elderly people in the family, somehow unintentionally, without any malice from anybody, it ends up falling on women. And because and it's internalized, women also tend to believe that it's their role. So they may, even if they're struggling to fulfill those responsibilities, their default response to it would be, how can I do it better? And not necessarily on, should I be doing this?
So the social and cultural expectations are so deep rooted that it's not only coming from outside, it's within us as well as women to expect this of ourselves, right?
And also not resist if you're struggling, like I'm saying, the MO is, how should I manage my time better? If I have to give you a little insight, many women say who come in sessions, and at least I can tell you at Amaha, the majority of people who come in for sessions is women, right? There is almost like a 65% of people who come in are women, right? And it ranges, right? Working professionals, homemakers, students, everybody, right? Across the lifespan. We only deal with adults, but I'm saying from 18 to 65, 70, it's majority of it is women.
Okay, so it's not true then that women would not seek help if they have mental health challenges. Is that a myth?
No, it is not a myth. It is true in the sense that they will delay seeking help much more. So usually women who come in, they have, say, struggled for, say, years sometimes with even clinical issues before they felt that they needed to sort of address it in some manner, right? That they had to deal with it. Of course, men have their own struggles. I don't want to sort of, undermine their thing and, how it impacts the need to not express emotions or not be emotional. But women, they tend to sometimes work from the assumption that I have to just learn to deal with it, and it's not something which should be paid attention to and addressed. Mostly when women come, it's not only to take care of their mental health. The trigger often is how it has compromised other responsibilities. I can't take care of my kids as well. I am not being able to, run the household. I'm not being able to perform at work. I'm snapping at family members, and then they're giving me this feedback that, okay, what's happening with you? So it's
so
cyclical that way also.
Okay, that's so interesting. So it's only when it's impacting others in my life that I'm pushed to seek help.
Yeah.
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 So if let's say it doesn't reach the level of being pushed to seek help. Yeah. What would it look like for me as a woman? And how would I recognize that I'm having some mental health challenges? Sometimes it's just we don't even realize it, no? That this is something I need to seek help for. And we just struggle and we just, put on a brave face and get on with it. So what does it look like? And just for me to be aware that, okay, maybe I need to get some help.
That's a very relevant question and a very core question for anyone, how to recognize in yourself, how to recognize possibly even in others. One thing that we often see in therapy sessions when people come in is we check for two things: distress and dysfunction. Right? Distress means, how am I subjectively feeling? Has it changed? So it could be, I don't feel as energetic, or I don't, my mood just doesn't seem to be okay. Or even the most basic, I don't feel like myself. Those are the most subjective experience of distress. Of course, dysfunction will look like I'm not being able to do, rather not do things, that again gives that whole expectation bit, but I'm not being able to live the life the way I want to. If I want to wake
Mm.
up on time, I'm not being able to wake up on time. If I want to go and meet my friends, I'm not feeling the energy to do it. I'm not, feeling up to doing it. So some signs which sort of occupy this distress and dysfunction
Mhm.
is, you can start having physical signs, multiple kinds of aches and pains. And it's very interesting, very many times when women come in, especially slightly older women, right? In middle adulthood, say maybe in their 50s or even 60s or even late 40s, they come with this myriad of physical health concerns. Back is aching, constant headaches, body ache, which just doesn't seem to go away,
Mm.
right? And they've gone to all the physical, GPs and everybody and tried, natural remedies and medicine and all of that, and nothing has helped. Eventually, the doctors have said, it's not your body, it's your mind. Go to a therapist, go to a psychologist, go to a psychiatrist. So it manifests in physical symptoms, headaches, even gastric problems, anxiety, ignored anxiety, not managed anxiety often manifests as gastric problems. Constant indigestion, constipation, just acid reflux. And women sometimes report decades of having that and just
Yes, I
going
can.
to
Now that you're saying these things, I'm beginning to see that a lot of these things women would just suppress as, hey, it's not life-threatening, it's not dysfunctional to my daily contributions to my family and work, etc. So I'll just like get on with it. Right? So
yeah.
that seems to be the default setting for most women, unfortunately. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah, but
thank you for
that's
that.
also the sign that okay, something is happening. If you've tried to
Mm.
correct it in multiple ways, it is not corrected,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to take care of your mental health and sort of think of it in that manner.
Okay, thank you so much. I think if our participants, if you have questions, please do either put up your hand or put it in the chat. We will take it up as and when you put it in. In the meanwhile, we did get some questions on the email, so I'm going to ask you some of those now, Pratishta. Yeah. One is that can we generalize that women had propensity to mental health is uh, what shall I say is more fraught with danger, so to speak. So are these different across age groups, life stages, whether you're
Hmm.
married or not, you have a family that's dependent on you or not? Can that be generalized? Is there enough information we have to tell us this?
So to say overall,
Mm.
right, in the population and overall mental health concerns, there is not much difference in how frequently it presents in men versus women.
Mm.
So overall, the data says say around 14 to 15% men and 14 to 15% women. So that there's no drastic difference
Okay.
there,
All right.
right? Maybe some point percentage. But what happens, how it manifests, how it interferes can vary greatly, right?
Mm.
If I have to talk about, say, just from the sense of reproductive cycle, right? So starting from, Minak, when girls start to have their periods, now that is a phase fraught with so much emotional changes, running parallel to the hormonal changes that is happening, running parallel to how it results in changes in appearance. So
Mm.
usually girls that age are at risk of, in this 14, 15, 13 years of age, young adolescent teenage girls are at risk of what we call as eating disorders, because suddenly their bodies are changing, then they're getting this messaging from media that your body is to look like that, and they're very impressionable. So at that age they're at risk of that. Again, an age where you're highly self-conscious, so they're at risk of social anxiety. Most anxiety disorders,
Mm.
they call social anxiety, generalized anxiety, start in these adolescent, 13 to 18 ages, right? As you move ahead, say, women get married, decide to start a family, have kids. Now the postpartum period, very high risk of anxiety and depression because of the hormonal fluctuations, the estrogen ups and downs, the lack of sleep.
Yes.
Right? Anybody who's had a child will know what happens to your sleep cycle. And now they've said that earlier it was seen that postpartum is, say, 6 months, like how postpartum is defined. But sometimes it can go up to, rather, it usually goes up to 2 years, which means it takes your hormones and body to settle down up to 2 years. And if, say, someone is to conceive again, before they can settle down, it starts again, plus the lack of sleep, plus the added responsibility, especially if it's the first child or even if it's the second child. And if you come to the menopause bit, many times women don't realize that what is happening to them is a sign of premenopause, not sleeping, sudden drop in energy, sudden mood fluctuations. Women who were functioning, say, absolutely fine till their 40s now suddenly start to experience this very quote unquote PMS like symptoms. Emotional vulnerability, feeling, very sensitive to things which have been said, not being able to sleep. Hot flashes, which are very physical symptoms, are very commonly associated with menopause. So if anybody knows of menopause and they know hot flashes, so when they have hot flashes, their first thought might be menopause. But which is also, many people don't know what hot flashes are and that they are a sign of menopause. But I'm saying anything other than hot flashes is not connected to premenopause. But these are also menopausal signs, like change in sleep. I mean, if I have to share my experience, not but just like someone I know, like my mom, when she went through menopause, for 2 years before that, she showed symptoms which in hindsight are like clear depressive symptoms. Just, small things you'll say will hurt her. Of course, how children or even adult children of a certain age can be like slightly snappy. And you knew that, okay, your mom could deal with it till some time, and now she's become this. And it's interesting, and it's a fact, this is a fact which I recently learned about, is that estrogen is what makes women adaptable. How women are so accommodative, whatever someone says, and estrogen plays that role. So in premenstrual, like PMS, there is an estrogen dip, which is what results in that snappiness. I don't tolerate this behavior. And I'm like, so much of my life makes sense.
Exactly.
Sorry. So the reduced tolerance is that dip. Now in menopause, it's again happening. That's why the sensitivity, it's not the sensitivity which has happened, it's the extra adaptability which existed till now is going away. And to women, it's feeling like, oh my God, what's happening to me? People around, it's feeling like, oh my God, what's happening to me? What's happening to this, my family member, wife, mother, sister, whoever.
So Pratishtha, these are clearly issues that are unique to women, right? What you talked about just now, these are clearly issues that are unique to women. Yeah, and that we should keep an eye out for because we are women.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So are there any other mental health issues that are unique to women in this manner?
So there, women, I mean, I do not want to go to the extreme, but women are more likely, 20 times more likely to attempt to self-harm or kill themselves. Okay, 20 times more likely than men. However, men are much likely to complete it, which means the things that women do to harm themselves are not necessarily lethal. Right? But what it indicates is how much more women are pushed to the edge. It's just that the action that they have taken is not as lethal. Right? So it's not completed. It does not end in them, unfortunately, dying by suicide, whereas the actions men take are much more definitive and lethal. But 20 times is a significant number. How much are they pushed to the edge? And the, very often there is a particular diagnosis in mental health, and I'll not go into the diagnosis, but there was recently a debate which said that why are women diagnosed much more? Okay, let me say the other side of it. Young boys are often diagnosed with what is called as ADHD, if any of you have heard it. And girls are not diagnosed with ADHD as frequently, right? And it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, neurodivergent concern, and debate on whether it's how much of it is a problem is aside. But one of the interesting conversations or debates that I not recently, some years back read, is that does social conditioning of women or girls happen so early that hyperactivity is suppressed so early on that it doesn't even manifest as a symptom? It will manifest as not being able to focus. It will manifest as impulsivity. It will not manifest as running around, being fidgety, because, it's corrected much more quickly. Whereas boys are seen as boys will be boys, and not in the extreme manner, but children, young boys.
Girls mask a lot earlier then.
Yeah. And whether it's learnt, observed things, or is it the whole biology to it? There is, we can keep on debating that. And of course, then there are psychological issues, stigma. It's greatly improving. It's improved many folds in the past
There's
decade.
a question actually that we had got in this space, which is that girls in our society are treated as second-class citizens. Not that they're less, but that the boys or men are loved and respected more. How does this affect girls' mental health? That's the question. And I think that's tied into what you're saying, right? About how the expectation from girls is different from that of boys while growing.
I find myself like moving into the social commentary from this seat of a mental health expert. So I have to sort of mentally course correct myself very frequently, but I'll still say it because what the question you have asked is sort of a social question as well. See, forget about girls, boys. Think of an individual who feels that they're not valued, right? Irrespective of men or women or girls or boys, it is bound to impact their sense of self, which means children, start doubting themselves. It is not that they because their sense of self is coming from outside. Children don't have a sense of self. They believe about themselves based on what they're told. So if young girls observe that their sibling, their cousin, or generally boys in the society are respected more, they might internalize it to believe that I am actually lesser in some way, and hence I am not receiving love or care or affection at par. It's not less, but in comparison, it is lesser. So it's often internalized as a real shortcoming, right? And that impacts sense of self, that impacts sense of worth, right? And that can have lifelong impact. When people have a lowered sense of self or lower sense of self-worth, they will struggle with assertiveness, which we know is very true for women. They feel like they do not have enough.
And you're saying it starts at such a young age.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. Okay. There is another question that we had got about, you were talking earlier about physical health and the biology of it and the physicality of a lot of things that women go through. So can you help us understand how perhaps physical and mental health are correlated, and does poor health in one space make the other one also vulnerable? So then, where does one start? That is the question that came in.
I'll respond to that, Devika. I think people have DM'd me questions. So after this question, I'll sort of answer the DM questions as well. I don't want to miss out on them because they're not visible to you. They're just visible to me.
Okay.
So absolutely, physical and mental health are greatly connected, right? It's all happening in the same body, right? We call it mind-body duality. That we just
Mm-hmm.
have one body and we just have one mind, and this is the mind which is uh, controlling, deciding what the body does, and it's the same mind which is controlling what our emotions are. So if I have to take an example, when we don't get enough sleep, and sleep is often seen as a physical experience, you're awake and then you're asleep, right? And it's seen as period for physical rest. But a lot of mental health processes take place when we are asleep. One of which is, of course, memory. So if you don't sleep enough, and it's a consistent thing, you will notice memory lapses. That's why young mothers often struggle with brain fog, because you need sleep to establish your memory,
Mm.
right? Another thing which is very relevant with sleep is emotional regulation. If you're not getting enough sleep, you are consistently, you will find it difficult to regulate your emotions, right? You might find yourself being anxious much quicker, being angry much quicker, being sad much quicker, because the emotional regulation part is not addressed because you're not getting sleep. Your ability is compromised. Um, a significant thing which is which connects physical and mental health is the gut, right? Our digestive system and all of that. Often gut is called the second brain. The amount of neurotransmitters that exist in the brain, the gut is only second in number. Like, it has as many sensations. So if that's why food impacts so much, because a lot of messaging is going from the gut to the brain. So if you're not eating enough, if you're not eating on time, all of that will impact your mood as well. Uh, if you are now, if I have to see the other way, how does mental health impact physical health? If you are struggling with anxiety, and one of the common symptoms of anxiety is overthinking. If you
Mm-hmm.
overthink a lot, your sleep gets compromised.
Mm-hmm.
Your sleep gets compromised, which means your immunity dips, which means you're more likely to fall sick and get these
It goes into
seasonal
a cycle
things.
again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing which is connected is, and that's why, the earlier example that I gave about aches and pains, is when we are stressed, our body's stress response includes tightening of muscles, and especially the muscles on your neck and shoulders, right? They tighten when we are experiencing stress. Now, this could be mental stress also. This doesn't need to be physical stress. So those muscles tighten if you are in constant stress, chronic stress, say work stress, stress related to the health of a family member, or whatever reasons which continue, your muscles are constantly tight. What happens? Which means now you have constant pain
Mm-hmm.
because your muscles are tight, right? So it's how mental health, anxiety, stress resulted in a physical health issue, right? So those are the ways it's very significantly connected, right?
Thank you. Yeah, that's quite clear. Thank you. You said you had some questions
Yeah,
directly to you, no, Pratisha.
yeah,
If you could take those, and there's one
yeah.
on the main chat group which is a more generic one of what is the definition of success and happiness according
Oh
to
my,
you. But you could possibly take that after the more direct questions.
direct, yes. So we have a question. It says, does mental health vary between married and unmarried women? Okay, so I'm going to say something controversial, and I also don't. I think there are solutions to it, but I'm going to say it. There was a research done long back,
Mm.
and it was not done in India. So, not based on Indian people or anything, but it said that the general experience of being married, if the mental health, say this is the mental health of men and this is the mental health of women, being married is a direct improver of men's mental health and a direct compromising factors of women's mental health,
Oh dear.
right? That just everything else being equal,
Huh.
right? And now I gave a disclaimer that this is not based in India. So I'm not saying this is a cultural issue. Even if it is a cultural issue, it's a social issue which is existing everywhere,
Mm. Mm.
right? And when people sort of went and said, why did this happen? So, of course, there's biology, that something is happening in getting married, which is, either the age, the life stage, what is happening. But it said it's seen as an additional responsibility for women, and for men, it is a support in existing responsibilities.
Okay.
Right?
Possibly something that gives greater freedom and
Yeah.
suppressing some
Like
elements of it.
now you become accountable to more people, or now somebody is there to take care of what I had to take care of in some ways, which included myself, like for men, maybe. Right?
It's
Now,
really
whenever
interesting. Not actually controversial what you're saying, but
now
interesting.
whenever I say this, I also feel slightly guilty. I don't want to target men. I don't want to target society. And I genuinely believe that it doesn't come from a malicious place, right? It is so ingrained, it is so cyclical. Nobody is at fault. But what
Mm,
happens with things when nobody is at fault? Nobody takes accountability for the solution.
yeah.
If I'm not the
And
problem, then why do I need to?
we just stay in the
Yeah,
problem.
that it's status quo, right? So there is a difference between married and unmarried women. There is
Mm,
research which backs that. Of course, it's added responsibilities, it's added pressure. Women often, especially in our country, are coming from a place where they want to appease, support their own parents. Now,
mm,
we, especially today, women, when they get married, they do not think of it as, now that's not my family anymore, or ab main dusre ke ghar mein aa gayi hu. They still feel, and maybe very accurately so, as responsible for their own parents, irrespective of whether
And
there is a male sibling.
Pratishta, here you're talking about only the heterosexual
Yeah,
women, right? There's a whole lot, there's a, you know, almost equal number of women who are either not heterosexual or who have become women or
absolutely.
see themselves as women. There's that whole spectrum.
Absolutely, you're right. And the risk factors, the struggles only increase, because
Mm,
when you talk about a person, if they belong to the queer community, now there is a struggle to establish their identity, to
yes.
prove or disprove everything.
So social, a lot of what you're saying is social,
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And cultural and all of that. There's a lot in our hands then, isn't it, in terms of how we behave and how we respond
Yeah,
to things happening around us.
yeah.
That will
Hmm,
impact people's health.
hmm,
Yeah.
hmm. Absolutely. And it's the same thing, right? Women's mental health cannot be a women's issue. It's a social
Mm,
issue, and it needs to be treated like that. I'll answer the other
exactly.
question that I have on DM, and there is a lot of details about someone's experience with pregnancy. But the basic question is how to best handle emotions,
Mm,
right? Now, that's a very useful question. That's why I'm just focusing on that bit of the question. And ma'am, who's asked this question, I'm not a gynecologist, so I'll not be able to comment on the gynecological aspects of it. So I'll answer what I can, what is my field of expertise. The emotions are not meant to be static. Emotions by definitions are moving things, right? They are vulnerable to change, and not vulnerable, it is an inherent nature of emotions to be changeable, right? It's
mm,
not consistent. The problems that exist are two kinds. One is that the situation and my emotion is not matching. Things which should make me happy is not making me happy, is making me feel sad. Or of intensity, things which should make me angry at 4 are making me angry at 8, right? So over responsiveness of emotions, like high
mm,
sensitivity of it. I think the first thing that any of us can do to better manage our emotions is to accept them and say, I am allowed to feel what I'm feeling, right? If I go back to the thing that I said, that we are trained, socialized to suppress, the first thing that we need to do is to not suppress the experience. I'm not saying go yell at people if you're angry, but I'm saying at least we start with acknowledgement of anger. I am feeling angry. I am feeling hurt. I am feeling sad. And it's okay. right? Then we ask ourselves the question, what in my understanding is the cause of it? Like, what made me feel sad? What made me feel hurt? And if possible, to directly address that cause, right? If someone said something which hurt you, best to go and talk to them. If someone said something which made you angry, address the issue. Don't sweep it under the carpet. Suppose it's not an actionable thing. मैं अभी जाके नहीं बात कर सकती. Yeah, I don't want to get into it. I first want to feel calmer. Do things which make you feel better. Do not, what the earlier thing that I said is what we call as problem focused coping. Address the problem directly. But if the problem can't be addressed directly, or you are not feeling completely in the headspace to address the problem, we shift to emotion focused coping, which means do things which will address only the emotion, not necessarily the problem. Distract, vent it out, do things which make you happy, cry it out, journal, do deep breathing, whatever it is, right? Just to reduce the emotional overwhelm in the moment. Right. And when that happens, more often than not, people find themselves capable of being able to think more clearly about the problem and address the problem in some manner. Seek out support. See, many times I've heard women, especially, women who are in their 40s or 50s. I'm not saying a younger age group because it's changing now. Often feel like that these are personal matters. I don't want to involve, say, friends or extended family or even my close family members into what is a problem between me and my husband, or what is a problem between me and my adult children. And, it seems like I am betraying someone if I do it, or, they'll not like it that I've spoken. But that's not why you're speaking. You're not necessarily speaking to complain. We talk because venting helps. We talk because when we talk things out, the way we process to make sentences to talk is part of problem solving. That's the core between journaling and talking. Because thoughts in our head can be all over the place. When we have to express, we have to by default structure them. When we by default structure them, the solutions also appear. We are able to see what the problem is. And the problem seems much more manageable. So talk to people, do things which make you happy, identify and address the problem. But first, allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Yeah, emotions are inconvenient, but we can't run away from them. Hindi में एक कहावत होती है ना क्या? It's about romance usually. कि आग का दरिया है और डूब के जाना है. So that's what is emotions. Inconvenient, but have to go through it only. There's no running away. They'll follow you.
So that's great. Asking for help, talking to people. These are things that you're saying would help, right? So
yeah,
are there other things that one can do to invest in our own, mental health? And is there anything for those, many people who are here on the call may be employed by an organization. So is there some things that we can expect as resources from organizations also?
Absolutely. I'll answer both things. What can we do for ourselves, and especially women, is make self-care a priority. If I have to just give one suggestion for women to take care of their mental health, forget about everything else, is self-care. It is preventive. It is almost, curative is too strong a word, but also curative. Even if you're not struggling with mental health concerns, taking care of yourself, which includes definitely eating, sleeping on time, getting some exercise, talking to people, taking out me time, setting boundaries, saying no, doing things which make you happy, are all protective factors, right? It's what will help you recognize something is happening also sooner, right? But even if you are someone who already struggles with anxiety, if you make sure you're setting boundaries, your anxiety is going to be much lesser, because a core of anxiety is not feeling in control. Boundary setting is something which will make you feel in control, right? So self-care for sure. What can people expect from organizations, or what should organizations do? I'm also talking about whoever, if you are at a position where you can have that impact in your organization. I think firstly, normalize conversations around mental health.
Mm.
Normalize taking time off for mental health issues. And time off doesn't mean extended leaves. It could be, hey, I'm really tired. I'm not being able to focus today. I'm going to end my work day early and pick it up tomorrow. Having that conversation out loud, managers saying it to their team
Mm.
members, leaders talking about it publicly,
Yeah, and I
right?
think women being supportive of other women at the workplace also in that case, right? Because you know better than the male peers what's going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think what can help in general, and I'll come back to the organization bit, is when we see someone, where does empathy come from? When you feel for them the way they will feel for themselves, putting yourself in their shoes. So what helps is finding commonalities. I can say, I don't understand this woman's problems because they have two kids and I don't have two kids, so I am different, so I don't know what to do. The fact is, what is the similarity? Okay, this person is overburdened. How do I feel when I'm overburdened? Whether it's men, women, why is it a you problem? Why do we not see it as a problem which can happen to anyone,
Mm.
right? What can organizations do? Of course, recognize that these are real things and recognize that what happens to employees, women, men, their mental health will impact workplace. So it is organizational responsibility. People spend on an average a majority of their waking time at work.
Mm.
You probably talk to your colleagues more than you talk to your family members,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And we invest so much, we invest so much in the workplace in terms of time, emotions, effort, etc., that sometimes you don't have enough uh,
Yeah.
left over for your personal life, right? Friends, family, etc. Which brings us to Vishal's question of success and happiness, right? Because
Hmm.
it's like um, it's not one size fits all. So how would you respond to him on, according to you, he's saying so.
I
In
think
your
the
opinion.
the answer to their question is in their question, that success and happiness to me is what it is to me. It's irrelevant
Hmm.
what it is to someone else. So we need to know what our definition of success and happiness is. Then only we can achieve it. If I don't care about, say, having a particular paycheck,
Hmm.
but I'm being told this is your value, what role you have, what title you have, I may strive for it, but I will not have that much conviction.
Hmm.
I might, and of course, if I don't have that much conviction, I'm less likely to achieve it also. Or even if I achieve it, I'm less likely to find satisfaction. So, what is success to you is success to you. But on an overarching level, I will still say that what helps is to have a progress based, movement based view on success. Success is not a ultimate place where you will be, but movement towards that place is also success.
That's very
Progress
good. Yeah.
is
Thank you.
also success, right? If I have to give a tangible example, if I decide to lose weight and I have to
Hmm.
lose 10 kgs of weight, if I tell myself I'll only be happy when that 10 kgs happens, how do I then regularly exercise and stay motivated? Because 10 kgs is going to take time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Very often. And one step is then saying, okay, every 1 kg is success, right?
Hmm.
But 1 kg will also take time.
Hmm.
Sometimes the things you do is the success. It's a
Yes.
process based definition of success.
Yeah.
What are you inputting and not what is your output or outcome? So shift it to input, because input is all that you control. I only control whether I exercise and do diet control. I
Okay.
don't control whether I lose weight.
Yeah. So there's an emotional example, okay, of this older lady um who is really unhappy, but she's unhappy because she feels that her husband does not value her or love her or whatever in the way that she wants to be, okay.
Hmm.
And now it's got to a stage where anything comes back to, but I'm not loved by this person, I'm not appreciated by this person. Yeah, so it's become a slightly abnormal or dysfunctional idea of what is happiness and success for me,
Hmm.
so
So the only thing that matters is
yes,
appreciation and love of this one
from that
person.
one person. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm giving that example because I think there will be many uh,
Hmm.
people out there who would not admit to or ask this, but it's a very real thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And it's a difficult one. See, we're all first and foremost people wanting connections, people wanting acknowledgement,
Mm,
wanting appreciation. It's very core to us. And it's such so intangible that I cannot say do this, and this will be the outcome.
yeah,
Workplace goals are very tangible many times,
absolutely.
not always, but these experiential things are much more difficult.
Mm,
So, I mean, as cliched as it sounds, some part of happiness will always be within only,
mm.
right? Does not mean that others have no impact, but I'm saying it will not be 100%. Some part of it will lay within us.
So can we work towards having a little more control over what gives us happiness and find happiness where we can?
Hmm.
Is that possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's as much as like I said, you do it, you're doing it,
Yeah.
and
So it's a
that's also
muscle.
happiness.
Can we say it's an emotional muscle like any other
Yeah,
that we can work on? Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. But to women, especially, I will say, if certain things make you happy, it's also worth asking for it. It
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be like nobody can make me feel better or worse. No, people can make you feel better or worse. And you have to tell them that this is what you did, which made me feel better or worse. They might be doing it unintentionally. This
Yeah.
example that you gave, I'm hypothesizing here. The husband may be showing love and appreciation in a way that he understands love and appreciation, may not be doing it in the way the wife wants. So the wife has full right to say, this is in action what I'm looking for.
So you're saying what is in our hands is articulating it, stating our expectations and desires, and
Yeah,
not just sitting in silence and suffering.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So that bit we do, and then let's see what we have.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm also, cognizant of the time, Pratishta,
Hmm.
and I would like participants, if there's anything you want to ask now, is the time, because I would like then to give a few minutes to Amaha also to talk about what they have for us in terms of, what are the
Offerings. Hmm.
offerings that Amaha has for an audience like this. Yeah. Um, so, any questions? You would like to put up your hand or unmute and ask, or um, put it in the chat if you'd like to. Um, in the meanwhile, let me say thank you, Pratishta, for
Thank
giving
you.
us your time. I really appreciated today's session. There's some things that were new to me, and it's good. It keeps you grounded in the what is happening to us in our bodies or in our minds, and
Hmm.
to understand that we don't have to suffer alone, and that there is help
Absolutely.
out there, and there are people who have expertise in this, and who have seen we are not alone in this. It is the problems that we have are problems that other people have too, and can be addressed. So thank you for bringing
Absolutely.
that to the front, and answering a lot of the
Thank
questions that came in. so clearly and
Thank
articulately.
you. Thank you for having me. I hope people would have something to take back. And I just want to end with the sentence on the thought of seeking help and not being alone. That if you're struggling, or if someone around you is struggling, and you might have just started to struggle, or you might have been struggling for very long, it's never too soon to seek help. You don't have to suffer long, and it's never too late to seek help कि अब क्या बदलेगा, अब तो इतने साल हो गए. Do not take that approach. The minute you realize that you want to change something, that's the best time for you to do it. So yeah,
Lovely.
that's it from me. Over to you, Kunal.
Thank you, Pratishtha.
Um, Very well. Thank you, Pratishtha, for this fantastic session, and thank you, Devika and Dr. Geeta, for leading us into it. So we at Amaha believe in a holistic wellness, emotional wellness for everybody. We're happy that we have kicked off this session with a focus on women's mental health. I come of a family where I have four sisters, and many of what Pratishtha actually spoke about were telltale signs that I, as a younger brother, may not have recognized. Thanks, Pratishtha, again for kind of linking the mind, body, soul connection and how each could be an indicator of support that a woman might require. I'm guessing there would be HR personnel over here. So Maha also caters to emotional wellness for HR people.
Yes.
So what I want to speak about for the next 2-3 minutes about the workplace wellness, emotional wellness solution. And it is an important support framework for most organizations to have, right? Many organizations may have thought about enabling this kind of support framework, thinking that it is now good to have. But here is a page that talks about statistics that have come about through research carried out by Deloitte, the Asian Journal of Psychiatry, and Aon PLC, suggesting that non-investment in employees' mental health could have bottom line impact, right? In fact, that estimate is to the tune of USD 14 billion as losses to company if they do not invest in employees' mental health, right? Uh, Pratishtha gave a lot of examples, but think about a situation in which your top performer all of a sudden has stopped responding to calls or not turning on his videos on client calls, right? Or somebody who was very chirpy has all of a sudden got silent, right? Or your personnel or your direct report calls you up on a Monday morning saying that, look, I don't feel like working today or takes a sick leave. Those could be indications that he or she might require support, right? That could have direct impact on productivity. That could have direct bearing on presenteeism and absenteeism. And if the organization doesn't develop itself to be a caring organization, then employees could actually resign and leave. So it could have attrition consequences. So it no longer is a good to have for organization, but an imperative because it affects the bottom line. Okay? So how does Amaha come into being? So Amaha's integrated mental health ecosystem has the support for wherever an employee might be in the mental health journey, a mild, a moderate, or a severe concern. Wherever an employee might be on the journey, Amaha has got support framework for that. Right? I'll quickly take you through all the necessary support framework, starting with therapy and psychiatry services. Individuals can access therapy and psychiatry services through chat, audio, video, telephonic helpline, as well as in OPD clinics in Mumbai, Bangalore, and New Delhi. Statistics show that about 6 to 7% of all therapy cases require psychiatric support, right? So that's how we handhold those cases where cases that require psychiatric support move on from therapy to psychiatry. Furthermore, we have realized that even before you access one-on-one therapy, can an employee really invest time to take care of himself or herself? And that is how Amaha's award-winning application is also able to infuse discipline in people's life by allowing them to invest in themselves, right? So the personalized application, a self-care application, has aspects and features such as the 28-day self-care program, where based on your initial score on a stress or an anxiety or any other emotional difficult assessment, you embark on a unique 28-day journey. There are mood trackers for you to track your mood, the goal tracker by which you can track your goals, set your goals, and ensure that you follow them. There's also a relief chatbot, Ali, which disseminates psychological first aid when you're faced with a difficult circumstance. All this is through self-care. All this is before or should you feel that you need to work on yourself, can be accessed to the Amaha application. Right, and just as Pratishtha said, and Devika ma'am also talked about, right, it is a stigmatized topic, right? And even though we have covered a lot of ground since the pandemic, mental health isn't an easy conversation, right? You would think twice about reporting or talking about that to your boss. Therefore, awareness building and engagement campaigns are important, right? So through social media creatives, through emailers, newsletters, as also engagement activities in your offices, we are able to spread awareness regarding it. What else? While one-on-one support is available as also self-care, it's important that we also psycho-educate employees about the importance of mental health, but also help them understand what is stress, what is a good stress, a bad stress, what are the impacts of loneliness, whole bunch of such topics, including women's mental health that we spoke about just now. We work with you towards curating those topics and disseminating it for the welfare of your employees. To begin all this, we typically carry out proprietary diagnostics, surveys and diagnostics built in-house through 300 years of clinical research to help you baseline important emotions such as office stress within your organization. That could be a good starting point for an individual to realize where he or she might require support. Yes, so thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity, and I hope everybody that's present benefited tremendously out of this session.
Thank you, Kunal. And thanks, Amaha, for your generosity in making this offer. All the many other people who registered and didn't attend are going to regret this. But thank you so much for putting this up. And Pratishta, thank you again for your time. If there are questions that people didn't have the opportunity or didn't feel ready to ask during the session, please feel free to write into the Mind Matters email ID that we had put up on the poster, or to the Amaha email ID that was on email. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you, Devika. Thank you, Dr. Geeta. Everyone, have a wonderful weekend.
Everyone.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you all.